How's it going, everyone? This video is going to be over market structure shifts versus liquidity grabs. In order to understand market structure shifts versus liquidity grabs, we have to understand what displacement is. If you haven't already seen my video on market structure shifts and displacement, I will link that in the top right corner, and I would recommend watching that first. But let's take a look into what displacement is. Displacement is a large aggressive move. It can be single or multiple candles that closes over structure. For example, right here, we have these three candles that make up a displacement move closing below this low. Really, my focus goes to this large candle that creates a fair value gap as our displacement candle. Similarly, over here, we have this large aggressive move that closes over this previous high. So what is a market structure shift? Market structure shift is when we get a sweep and then that large displacement candle or candles closing below structure, shifting the trend from bullish to bearish. Now, what is a liquidity grab? A liquidity grab, simply put, is a failure to displace over structure. So for example, here, when we move up, we fail to displace or get large aggressive candles over this high. Same thing right here, we reach over this high but close back in, and then we continue lower here. When we fail to displace below this low here, we look to the other side, and right here we get a strong aggressive move closing over this previous high, and we are likely to continue higher. Now that you understand the difference between price displacing and closing over structure or failing to displace over structure, let's get into the charts and look at some examples. Before we begin this example, I'm going to show you what I look for in price at old highs and old lows. So if we mark out this high here, there's a few things that I look for when price returns to this area. Price is either going to displace out of this range, retrace and continue higher, or it's going to displace out of this range, displace back into the range, and then continue lower, or it's going to fail to displace over the high and then come back in. Those are the three things that I look for when price returns to an old high or low. So let's see what happens here. As we move forward, you can see price cannot close or displace out of this range. This leads me to believe that we're going to fall back into the range or head lower. So let's see what happens. Once again, cannot close outside of this range, closing back in. And there we go, we start to head lower. Now where do my eyes draw to? That we've disrespected this fair value gap, this low down here. So let's see where price goes. Price heads for this low. Now we're at this old low. What do we want to see? Price will either displace out, retrace, and continue, displace out, displace back in, go higher, or what is happening here, we fail to displace out. I'd want to see if these next candles don't displace out of this range, I'd want to see us come back into the range. Right there, we can't close out of the range once again. Once again, can't close out of the range, and then we start to displace higher here. So if you notice, can't close out of the range, displacement. We're likely to come back into the range. And for this, a lot of times I will use discount and premium because I want to see price return to at least a premium or a discount of the range if we are going to go lower. So right here, we haven't yet reached into a premium of this range. There we go, we reach into a premium, we displace higher. So right now, I'm thinking if we continue to displace higher, our eyes go to this high over here. Let's see what happens. Right here, not a very strong close up. Let's see what happens on the next candle. We don't respect this fair value gap, get a lot of displacement down, so my eyes go back to this low. Let's take a look at this low, see where price is going to draw to. So once again, price reaches for this low. What do we look for? Do we get displacement out? Yes. So we want to see, do the next candles retrace or do they displace back into the range? If they displace back into the range, we're likely to reach up to here. If they don't and they just retrace, then we're likely to reach lower. So letting this play. The retracement, very shallow. Don't really get any displacement back in, so we're likely to continue lower. Okay, let's take a look at this previous low now. Do we displace below it? Yes. Do we displace back in? A little bit, but we're respecting this order block. Now we're kind of consolidating here. And this is when other PD arrays come into effect here. Let's see if this order block stays respecting price. Okay. We didn't displace below this low, so if we are going to retrace, at least into a premium of this little range here, which we did do right here. Now, I want to see the next candle if we displace up or if we displace out. So there we go, we get a closure outside this range. So I'd want to see if this order block is going to respect price as well, and we can continue lower. And there we go, we keep continuing lower and lower. And now I don't think reversal until we get some sort of displacement back up. Right here, we're starting to get full body candles moving up. However, if price closes below this low, it becomes an order block. So I want to see what the next candles do. Right there, we start to get displacement up, respecting this fair value gap still. So let's see what the next candle does. It closes higher here. Now we have a fair value gap here. So if price returns here, I want to see if it respects this displacement, move higher. There we go. Start to move higher. Once again, respecting these bullish PD arrays. Let's see what happens. So now I'm starting to notice we have this old high. Can't really displace over it. I want to see what the next candles do. Right there, start to close over it. Pretty weak so far. Let's see if we are going to continue higher. I want to see aggressive candles like we did here and here. Okay, starting to come back into the range. Kind of just consolidating here. Okay, what do I notice here? Can't reach below there, so I'd want to see price return to at least a premium of this range. Reaches lower, closes back up. Right here, I'd expect price to reach back into the range or reach for this high depending on this next candle. Right here, we reach into a premium of the range and get an aggressive close out. My eyes now draw to these old lows over here. Closure below that low. And you can see we close below this low, small retracing back in, close out. I'd want to see it reach for this low here. Get an aggressive displacement out of this range. So what can happen? Either a little retracement continuation, or we're going to displace back into this range and reach higher. No displacement back in, so likely to go lower. Okay, here we start to see some aggressive candles in the other direction, right? Let's see if we get some displacement back in. Are we respecting bullish fair value gaps? Let's see, still closing outside of that. Let's see what the next candle does. That reaches higher, and where is this close? Over this high. So we can either get retracement for a continuation or displacement back in to reverse. So aggressive out, aggressive back in, likely to reverse here. And if you know the box setup, we could look for this previous high right here to resist price. Now back into this range, we close below this low. So I'd want to see it go a little lower. My eyes now are looking towards this low. Do we reach for it? No, we're starting to get displacement now down and back up. So where is my eyes looking at? These highs now. Do we respect the fair value gap? Let's see. We do. So now I want to see this high. Now, what do we get? Displacement out of this range. So we either get displacement back in for a reversal, looking for lows, or we retrace to continue higher. So there's displacement up. We're looking over. We do see this fair value gap over here. Okay, let's see if we get retracement or if we get a reversal. So aggressive displacement out and displacement back in. I'd want to see it reach a little lower now. Now my eyes are over at these lows here, whether or not we take them. We do not, but we get displacement back up, which leads me to believe where. Where should I be looking? Old highs. Okay. Failure to displace. Reach back into a discount of this range. We're in discount. Price respects this fair value gap, so I'd want to see a continuation higher to this high and possibly that high. We take this high, get a close over. Looks like a retracement back in for closing back out in the range, so now I'd want to see this high taken. Displacement out. So do we see retracement or do we see displacement back in? And right there, start to close out, so I'd want to see it go a little higher. Still respecting. And there we get displacement out. But what do we get here? Displacement met with displacement. So now I'd want to see if we did go back into the range here. There we start to displace lower. So from here, I'd be looking left. What do we have to our left? We have lows right here. Letting price play out here. What happens? Not a whole lot, kind of consolidating here. You can see there is some down close right here, below this low. Closes down, closes back in, we reach higher. Nothing really super convincing here. Okay. Now we reach for this old high. Do we displace out? No. There we get displacement down. Now my eyes are drawn towards these lows. Okay, do we displace below these lows? Yes, so I want to look further left and down. Okay, can't displace below this low, met with aggressive displacement up. Where do I think we should go? These highs. Now you can see how on the 1 minute chart here, this can become a lot, right? We have a lot of structure breaks, a lot of failure to displace, just a lot of stuff going on. And that is why I think it is important to have some sort of directional bias. For example, if I'm bearish here, I'm not looking for any long setups. I'm looking for displacement down and a failure to displace up to position myself short. Similarly, if I'm bullish, I'm looking for displacement up and a failure to displace down to position myself long. Now we'll go through one more example, and this will be on the daily chart on how I use this to get daily bias. However, it'll just be an intro as my next video is going to go in depth on that. So an easy way to use displacement to find daily bias is essentially I find swing points in the market, so a swing high or a swing low, and then I look to see if price fails to displace or displaces out of that range. So for example, if we were looking at this high here, you can see price does not displace out of this range and it returns back into the range. Now looking at this low here, price does not displace out of it, comes back into the range, and then it reaches for this high. Now what do we notice with this high? We get a closure outside this, or displacement out, and price reaches and continues out of this range. Thank you for making it this far in the video. I know it was a little bit longer, so please leave a comment below and let me know if you do like the longer videos or if you like the shorter videos. If you are looking for the PDF, it will be linked in the description below. And if you do enjoy my content, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.